Morning Sunshines, by now a lot of you are going to be wrapping up Indigo Disc, and there's a couple of secrets to be had in the post game. I'm going to talk about the secret cutscene you can obtain from Kitakami, and I'm also going to talk about the meaning of it. Why is it so significant, and why did they hide this in Kitakami and all of this stuff? Let's go back into it and explain how you can access it. So as soon as you catch Terapagos, you're officially in the post game of the DLC, and there's still a couple of things to be done. You are not totally finished the DLC, and I'm not talking about the side stuff either. There is still some more story to be had, and something that rather explains a lot of the theme of this game, which is paradox. Okay, so you probably would have noticed in the title I'm talking about why this game talks about paradox Pokemon and all that stuff. Why paradox? Well, we're going to get to the paradox in a second, but once you've gotten Briar's book from after the cutscene, after the credits, you'll be able to exchange that book for the Scarlet or the Violet book. Now, how do you do that? So it's interesting that in this case, you're going to actually want to come back to the DLC 1 land, the land of Kitakami. And the first place that will appear on your map when you do is going to be Crystal Pool. That's where we want to go. So here we are, one of the 6 wonders of Kitakami. Now, you're going to cross the bridge here after teleporting here, and you're going to go straight to this little spit of land that enters the middle of the water, in essence, and throw out your Terapagos, just like that. That's going to trigger this cutscene right here, which we're now looking at. So this is actually a really cool cutscene. It actually is also full of explanations as to why the game uses the theme of paradox and what's going on with the professor. And here you can see our professor, right? So I do have Scarlet, and obviously you're going to get the professor that's respected to your actual game version. So let's have a look. Upon completion of that cutscene, you're going to be brought to this brand new title screen, which you're going to be able to see your version of the book on the table right there, and it's also sundown going down. It's right, nearly nighttime. This is totally different to the bright aesthetics you would have had in the previous cutscene. You also get some different music, which we can listen to right now. That's enough. Anyway, let's go ahead and explain what that just did to the story. How did it wrap it up nicely? So here's one of the paradoxes that is actually displayed to us at the end. This is the beginning of the cutscene here, and you can see the professor explains that, oh, this is the Winged King. We explain that this is actually Koraidon. That's the Pokemon's name. And in doing that, we tell the professor that this is Koraidon, which is how we learned that it's Koraidon in the first place. We learned that this Pokemon is Koraidon based off of Professor having named it Koraidon, and that's something we learned and picked up throughout the game. So that's one of the paradoxes. Our actions here at the end of the game actually resulted in our experiences at the beginning of the game. So that's one paradox done. In one of the questions, you ask her about her private life, and she explains she has a son. Now, if you didn't guess, the son is Arvin, okay? And after this cutscene, you'll be able to go back to them and hear different dialogue. So you are changing the entire timeline you already played through in your playthrough. So I recommend you go back and talk to Arvin. It's well worth checking out and seeing what he has to say. Then in this part of the scene, just in the run up to trading the books with the professor, she actually acknowledges that this is all about Terrapagos' awakening and all the further down in Area Zero under depths. So something extra for her to, I suppose, research. Now, by giving her this book, we essentially enable her to do that, to fulfill her research, because all of that stuff is already done and written in this book that we're giving her. So she's now able to do it herself, which is what causes all of the paradox stuff to be a success. She states her goal in this conversation is to actually try and bring Pokemon from the past or the future to the present time through a time machine. And by giving her this book, we basically allow her to succeed. So it's kind of interesting that all of our events here in this cutscene right now are what led to the entire gameplay that we experience in the first place. Thus, it's a paradox, guys. That's the paradox, and that's why everything is called paradox, and that's why we have paradox Pokemon. So that's a bit of an explanation for what's going on in that final cutscene. It's quite a cool one, especially quite obscure, quite hidden. No one would really think to go back and release Terrapagos in this crystal pool. I guess there's a small connection there because he's kind of a crystally Pokemon, but it's definitely a lot more obscure than would be used to for what we've experienced in this game so far. And it does tie in the whole paradox issue by, I suppose, giving us that full explanation as to why there's paradox in the first place and why they're called paradox. So yeah, the whole thing shows us that we experience a paradox in the game itself. So that's quite cool. I think it's quite a big deal as well. If you haven't seen this cutscene, go get it yourselves. It's obviously going to be a little different in Violet, so hopefully you enjoyed this video and a bit of an explanation. If you have any other thoughts to add, feel free to knock them down there in the comments. I'll see you guys around the next one. Have a good one. Bye.